Rahul, referring back to the maps that we've been putting out, the build-up on the Chinese side, and I can show that to our viewers, is a very, very intense build-up. What is the government's strategy to deal with this kind of build-up? Because they've really been lying, making it seem as if they're willing to pull back, whereas in reality, and these satellite images exclusively accessed by India today make it abundantly clear that that is not the case. I want to get some political reactions to this breaking story. Supriya Shrinate joins us, spokesperson of the Congress party. The opposition was asking for the government to do an official briefing of the opposition parties. It seems the Prime Minister has heard your call, Supriya. What is the Congress party making? You're the first Congress spokesperson we're hearing from after this announcement was made. Supriya, welcome.
Thank you very much for that, Rahul, and a big news that you broke earlier today that I was watching. I think the Chinese have been deceiving us all along, and our only demand was that take the nation and the opposition into confidence. I am glad the Prime Minister has called for an all-party meeting, and I am sure even without his calling, every member of the Indian opposition, whether it was the Congress or any other party, stands solidly with this government in our hour of need. I think the brutal way our army has been treated by the Chinese, they need a befitting reply. I am sure the government of the day and the opposition leaders will be able to come up with a strategy to deal with China, because I think this blow hot, blow cold policy with China has not helped. It's an enemy that has taken our cognizance, they are taking our goodwill into cognizance and deceiving us, and I think we need to give them a befitting reply. China needs to be hurt economically. It needs to have, if it's a military reaction is befitting, so be it. But I don't think we can stay quiet and stay a mute spectator to what China is doing on our Ladakh border.
Okay, now one of the problems, Supriya, and you were on a show where we discussed this, is that if there is heightened opposition clamor, it limits the ability of the military to negotiate, because the opponent knows that you're under political pressure. Remember, if you look at the Chinese mouthpieces, whether it's Xinhua, whether it is the People's Daily or Global Times, there is virtually no mention of the border skirmish. So their military, their government comes in with a completely open slate. They're under no domestic political pressure. And that's the one thing we need to think of, not as Congress, BJP, but as Indian nationals, Supriya.
Absolutely, and I don't think any of us deny the fact that when the army is at the border, we stand solidly behind it. We stand solidly behind the government of the day. But you will also have to appreciate, and you will also have to take into consideration that India and China are two very different countries. We have an alive and a thriving democracy. We have an opposition that should be taken into confidence. I don't think the opposition at any point of time, I recall no opposition member at any point of time questioning the government or questioning what was happening on the borders. All that we demanded was that the opposition has a right to know, because this is a matter of national security and each one of us is a stakeholder. I don't think you can compare the two countries. China is an autocracy, which we are not. We are a democracy, and we are a thriving democracy. I am glad the Prime Minister has called for an all-party meeting. I'm looking forward to whatever he shares with our leaders, and I'm sure we will be able to build a national consensus on whatever action the government takes, and whatever the government decides to do. I'm sure 130 crore of us stand solidly behind it. So let there be no doubt, let there be no speck of speculation that the opposition wants something else and the government is doing something else. Absolutely not. Whatever action the government decides to take, whether it is economic, military, or whatever else, diplomatic, we stand with the government of the day. But after 20 of our soldiers on record have now been martyred, I think the nation deserves to know what is really happening, because Galwan Valley is a point, the place where the dispute has now happened, the place where the skirmish is now happening, is a territory that was solidly under our control. So I think people would want to know, and it's been a 2.5-month tension that has built up on the border. I think it's fair that the government is coming out in the open and has called for an all-party meeting, and we should welcome that, even as the government continues its channels of negotiation, diplomacy, military engagement, whatever it may do.
All right, thanks very much, Supriya, for joining us.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.